National Bank State Street studio. This is Chicago's home for sports.
WMVP WSHE HD2 Chicago.
A Good Karma Brands radio station.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Nick DeLuca. Championship weekend around the corner in college football. A couple key matchups to decide the four members of the playoff. Florida State jumping to number 4 after Ohio State's loss to Michigan. But SEC Network's Peter Burns not sold on an undefeated FSU grabbing a playoff spot.
Florida State goes undefeated playing a Power 5 conference. You're going to have to take a look at it and go, all right, is this team that much better than perhaps Texas, perhaps a Georgia that has one loss, perhaps an Alabama? I think it's going to be hard for them to say that that's going to be the case.
Elsewhere, NBA Wednesday night, C.J. McCollum back in the lineup for New Orleans after missing more than 3 weeks because of a collapsed lung. Played limited minutes, but has made them count. 11 points in the first half. The Pels on top 54-36 with 5 minutes until halftime. Joel Embiid scratched with an illness around a half an hour before tip. Had a triple-double on Monday against the Lakers. Rockets-Nuggets just about set to get underway. Houston winless on the road this season. Defending champs 8-0 at home. Denver 9.5-point favorites on ESPN Bet. Jamal Murray making his return to the lineup tonight. Missed most of the last month with a hamstring injury. Nuggets 6-5 without Murray. Won 6-7 to start the season with him. Nuggets have outscored opponents by over 7 points for 100 possessions with Murray and Nikola Jokic on the court together.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman. Coming up Thursday, I'll tell you what Geno Smith needs to do if the Seahawks want to upset the Cowboys. It's on Sportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Texas.
How about that, Cowboys?
To you. This is Amber and Ian on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and on Sirius XM Channel 80.
It is college football championship weekend. Amber and Ian is presented to you by Progressive Insurance. And boy, do we have a slate of games, Ian, games that mean a whole lot when it comes to the college football playoff standings, maybe none bigger than what's happening in the Pac-12 on Friday. You talked to a couple guys who are going to be playing in this game that we will get to in just a moment, but the 5th-ranked Oregon Ducks taking on the 3rd-ranked Washington Huskies. Ducks dropped a game, Huskies undefeated. But
rematch. It's
Oregon that's favored in this one by 9.5.
I mean, they're the team that lost by 3, to Washington on October 14th. And then this is, to me, I really hope that having a rematch on this stage, Amber, lets America know how much these two teams respect one another, but also absolutely hate and despise one another. This is a remarkable rivalry. It is pure sports hatred when these two iconic helmets swap paint yet again, coming up on Friday night on ABC and right here on ESPN Radio.
Ian had a chance earlier to talk to Jackson Powers Johnson, the Oregon All-American center.
Being the anchor on an offensive line and living up to the standard that I just mentioned, where so many greats have come before you.
Well, it's humbling. A lot of, as you said, a lot of great offensive linemen have come through here in Oregon, and we take pride as a unit upholding the standard. And, it's been a really fun year. First year of football I've played, and I think our group should take a lot of pride in what we do. And we got a lot of elite guys and, really gifted opportunities.
What has been different about this year compared to any other year that you played ball?
I think just the connection as a team. We're all really connected together. We're connected as an O-line group. we're finding fun in the work that we do. Sometimes coming to work every day and it gets monotonous. But I think us as a group and us as a team, we're excited to come in, we're excited to work, and we're excited to come have, fun playing football, because you can say what you want about college football and how big it is and how much money it brings, but really it's just a child's game that you're playing since you were 8 years old.
How do you separate that in this day and age, especially as a college player? Professionally, it's different, but as a college guy, the money is now rolled in. So how are you able to compartmentalize that business side versus just continuing to have that 8-year-old mentality?
At least for me, I'm fortunate to have very supporting parents to help me on the side of, the business side of it, but also just, being where your feet are. If I'm at the facility, I'm here to work and I'm here to play football and I'm here to be, a great teammate. And when I'm outside, I can be an entrepreneur, guy who has, good teeth, smile in front of the camera. Like, I can be that guy. Just being where your feet are and knowing what you need to do in certain situations and what you need to be.
One of the best interior offensive linemen center for the Oregon Ducks. They have a Pac-12 championship they're pursuing. Will be on the call right on ESPN Radio, along with Herb Street Fowler and Holly Rowe. On the TV side, I'll be with Mark Kestecher and Kelly Stauffer. Can't wait to watch Washington and Oregon swap paint again. And Jackson, let's just talk about that rivalry. To me, having had the privilege of calling that game several times, it is one of the more underrated rivalries, not just in college football, but in all of sports. You all, that's true sports hate and respect. If you can, what's it going to be like for you, if you can sum it up, going back out there against these dudes one more time?
I'm honestly so humbled, to be even a part of this game. They're a great squad, and they have a lot of great players and, elite coaches, and it's just exciting. The opportunity to compete against, a great team in a great rivalry and arguably the last Pac-12 championship is special, and it's legendary. And to be against, our rivals and be against a rivalry that's gone so deep for so long, I don't think anybody could have wrote that any better. So it's an exciting experience. It's just another opportunity to go and play football, and I think every one of us is really grateful for the opportunity.
Hey, Jackson, you guys have been playing on a whole other level ever since October 14th, and you know what happened on October 14th.
Yeah, yes, sir.
For people who don't know, you want to remind them, or you want me to do it? Does that taste like vinegar on your palate?
I think you got it. I think you got it. You got a better voice. You got a better voice than I do over here. I'm a little sick. It's colder than usual, so I think you got it.
That was the final score: Washington 36, Oregon 33, and nobody's come within the double digits of you guys since. What was said after that game? Because you guys have just taken your individual play and team play to a whole nother level.
I think the big emphasis is that instead of, look at the faults that we had or look what, the uphill climb that we're going to have to endure, we just looked at inside and say, how much better can we get as a unit together? How can we get more connected? How can we lean on the guys that we have in this room? Blocking out the outside noise, too, because it gets loud. And then just working every single day, falling in love with the process of working and knowing that we still control our destiny, and we control our destiny by Monday practice, Tuesday practice, Wednesday practice. And I think just mostly blocking out the noise day.
Jackson Powers Johnson, Oregon All-American Center, here with us on ESPN Radio with Amber Wilson. I'm Ian Fitzsimmons. And Amber, you heard his tone of voice there after I referenced October 14th. And he started getting into and getting animated about, hey, look, it's every rep. It's holding guys accountable. They have been truly a different team since that 8-point loss against their arch rival Washington.
Well, that's what you have to do to move forward, right? Like, you have to just go ahead, hyper-focus, find a way to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. And you would imagine that that's the motivated team. I remember from years ago, one of the national championships that my Florida Gators won. There was that rematch against Florida State where they lost to Florida State, and then they end up beating them in the Natty 52-20 because you don't want to be on the other side of that rematch, right? It's like when the Michigan kicker took the practice kick and made it through the uprights, and you're like, oh, no, bad idea. You don't take that kick. You don't take that kick because they're going to miss it when it actually counts. That's the kicker. I think that's kind of how it feels when it comes to rematches during championships, is the team that loses it in the regular season, then they have that extra motivation and they really dial it in. And listen, if you're Oregon, then I understand why they have felt hyper-focused all season long on how to improve to beat Washington this time around. Dylan Johnson He is a running back for Washington. Ian had an opportunity to also sit down with him. Here's that.
Just getting to know you and your team, and especially your head coach, Kalen DeBoer, I don't think America truly appreciates what a remarkable human being, forget coach, but person that Coach DeBoer is. If you can, man, sum up what it's like to play for this guy.
Can't really put into words, man. Absolutely awesome guy. Really humble, kind-hearted guy, man. Goes out his way to make sure that, we never need anything on or even off the field. And then just, he challenges us to be better every day. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would say I love about him the most.
Get into that. I mean, how much do you not only want to get better for the man in the mirror every day, but also for the guy next to you and for your head coach who holds you accountable to be, what's this saying, 1% better every single day?
Absolutely, man. I think that goes, in life, he does a really good job of, telling us that football is not the only thing that we have. We have family, we have friends. Men are really looking out for us, man, trying to make sure that, we have something after football. So, he does a really good job with that. And then, just letting us know that every day we need to have a 1-0 mindset. And so that goes with, having a bad play. If you remain in the past, you'll mess up again, man, and you'll continue to mess up. So he does a really good job of just worrying about the future, the next play, or the next thing, So love him to death, man, and just an awesome guy.
You went for over 250-plus yards rushing against USC when we had you out there on ESPN Radio. And then, obviously, ZTF, you're all Pac-12 edge rusher, lost his father that week. And I'll never forget asking Coach DeBoer in our post-game interview about ZTF, and he broke into tears. And I saw a bunch of you guys around your senior leader after that game. What does team mean to the Washington Huskies? Because with you guys, it just feels a little bit different.
Man, if you look at it, there's no I in team. So, we play for each other. And I think that goes to show that, look at the games. If you go back and look at the last 5 or 6 games, man, we wouldn't have done it without each other. Even the offense playing for the defense playing for the offense. Nobody can win by just one person. So I think, Coach DeBoer stresses the word family a lot and just making sure that it's just not about football. It's more than football. And I think we understand that, and he does a good job of teaching it.
One of the best running backs in college football. He totes it for the number 3 team in the country, the Washington Huskies. Number 7, Dylan Johnson, here with us on ESPN Radio, getting ready for the Pac-12 championship game, which you'll hear right here coming up on Friday night. And this is a rematch, man, and I don't think a lot of people across the country truly understand the rivalry between Oregon and Washington. This is sports hate. People see the Iron Bowl, the Red River rivalry between Oklahoma, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan. Can you please explain to America right now, Oregon, Washington, Oregon?
I first got to keep for itself. Man, I know people don't really get to see us play as often because we play so late sometimes. But, man, it's nothing like it. It's definitely the best rivalry anywhere on the West Coast, for sure. And it's definitely the best rivalry game that I have been a part of and played in.
Hold on, man. You're a Mississippi State guy. You played in the Egg Bowl. And this is high praise here, folks. Just putting it into context. Continue. Go ahead.
Man, it's the craziest one I've played in, man. And I'm from Mississippi, played at Mississippi State. We had the Egg Bowl, man. It's past that, man. It's just, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just because of us being so highly ranked and so much at stake. I don't know, man, but it just felt bigger, You can't really describe it. You can only just, live in the moment. I think, you just had to be there to really understand.
Well, do understand how intense this rivalry is, and I cannot wait for Friday night, ESPN Radio, ABC TV, to watch these two swap games. Excuse me, yet again.
You've been choked up because you're that excited about Oregon-Washington, the rematch for all the marbles in the Pac-12. That game, kickoff, 8 p.m. Eastern, meaning Ian is going to have coverage for you beginning at 7:30 p.m. Eastern right here on ESPN Radio. Coming up next, though, on ESPN Radio, Amber and Ian with you. Has the NBA's in-season tournament already been a massive success? And also, is Ian still with us?
They're not going to catch direction. McCaffrey takes it to the house.
I think he's the most complete back in football. It's a matchup nightmare. Who's the best running back in the game?
I am.
Handoff McCaffrey into the end zone.
I'm not going to sit here and give MVP talk, but Christian McCaffrey is one of the best running backs in the entire league.
How would you like to come home to a bartender who will fix you any cocktail you want?
I'll have an old-fashioned.
I'll have a margarita.
Now you can with the Bartesian Home Cocktail Maker. Bartesian is a sleek machine the size of a coffee maker that makes premium cocktails at the touch of a button. Choose from over 50 different cocktails, from classics to the most exotic premium cocktails served in the best bars today. You'll always get freshly mixed, perfectly balanced cocktails with the Bartesian Cocktail Maker. And now, get Bartesian's best holiday deal ever when you go to bartesian.com/radio. Entertaining? The Bartesian is ideal for parties. No need to stock all kinds of individual mixers for complicated recipes. Every guest gets the cocktail of their choice in seconds. The Bartesian makes a wonderful gift for anyone who loves a fine premium cocktail. Now get Bartesian's best holiday deal ever. It's available right now only at bartesian.com/radio. That's BARTESIAN.com/radio for Bartesian's best holiday deal ever. Only at bartesian.com/radio.
This is a Bears town. A town where names like Butkus, Sayers, and Peyton need no first name. A place where Hallis, Ditka, and Lovey led us to that final game of the season. A city where we want our coach to know the importance of beating the Packers. Beating the Packers. This is a Bears town. And we are the new home of the Bears. ESPN Chicago.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
At the YMCA, finding your why starts by making an impact together, touching lives for the better. It can be the gift of time or treasure, supporting a community through talent without measure. Here, compassion fuels commitment, finding fulfillment through enrichment, serving and improving. What a way to live, and what a gift it is to give. Find your why and get involved today at ymca.org for a better us.
Crosstalk Unhinged, the podcast. It's can't miss radio that can't be played on the radio. Get the podcast on the ESPN Chicago app, presented by Blue Chew.
Simmons is a bit of a legend at ESPN Radio. He has been here a very long time. He has been in this business, doing this very, very well at the highest levels on national, both as a radio host.
Don't know where this is coming from.
And on the sideline.
Almost died
of our
eating popcorn.
best games all across college football. There are two things that every person who works in radio knows that you never eat during radio.
Peanuts and popcorn.
There you go. One is peanuts, the other one is popcorn. And Ian Fitzsimmons almost just died eating popcorn on air.
So I walked out during a taped interview, right, when we were playing Dylan Johnson, running back Washington, and before that the All-American Center from Oregon. So I walked out, and the kids have gotten the one of the big Christmas, 3-layer. You have the caramel, you have the cheese, you have the regular, right, popcorn. The big, yes. Just showed up, right? So I'm like, okay, now it feels like Christmas. And here we go. We passed the turkey. Now we're heading into Christmas season, and let's get all merry and jolly and filthy fat. And you can't walk by that damn drum and not grab some popcorn. So I did, and said goodnight to the girls, came back into the studio. We had about 2 minutes left with Dylan Johnson, and I'm chugging. You saw me chugging water. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. It's radio one-on-one. No matter what, if you have peanuts or popcorn and you're coming back on air, you're going to get choked up and sound like you're crying. And that was me.
It's why when I had a kid, I learned that the one thing that kids can't eat until they're 4 is popcorn because of that, because of the choking hazard, because it just gets stuck in there. It's like there's nothing you can do. As an adult, you kind of deal with it. As a child, obviously, apparently you can't. But
and the worst right now, I've got a popcorn kernel right that's stuck in between the tooth and gum. You got it.
In there.
And why do we still eat it? Why?
So
when we know that's going to happen.
So good. I love popcorn. I mean, anybody who's been listening to the show or following me for a long time knows that, I have some of that too. But anybody knows that I am not one who partakes in all of the carbohydrates all the time. Popcorn is one of the exceptions to that rule. It is so darn good. I will say that thin thing that you're talking about. I haven't had that in years, but I'd be all over that. If that was sitting in front of my face, I wouldn't be able to resist the cheddar.
Wait till your son is older, because that's where they get spoiled. The uncles and the aunts, grandparents, whomever, right? I mean, they're going to, that damn massive tin can is going to show up as a gift for the kids, and the adults go in and attack. And got me. It'll drop you every time. Every time.
Just don't do it while hosting a radio show. Amber and Ian is presented by Progressive Insurance. Let's get to some of the big headlines around the NBA, because we've been so consumed, of course, with NFL and college football and everything that's happened and is going to happen this coming weekend. But boy, are there a lot of storylines in the NBA. And maybe surprisingly to some people, none bigger than the NBA in-season tournament. The bracket is here. The 30-team group stage portion of the inaugural in-season tournament has now been whittled down to an 8-team field, and the knockout round will start early next week. You have quarterfinal games 2 Monday, 2 Tuesday. They will be held on the home floor of the 4 highest seeds. Those teams are the Bucks and the Pacers in the East, and the Lakers and the Kings in the West. I would say, Ian, that this in-season tournament has been a bigger success than I expected it to be off the bat, because it feels like the players care, and I don't know how much yet the average fan cares, frankly, or is noticing. The NBA did a smart thing, making the courts different colors to alert you when your team is playing for this in-season tournament. But I can tell you, like, the Heat getting knocked out of it, not making it, it's a storyline on all the Heat podcasts I'm listening to. It mattered last night. And the fact that these things are mattering on a Tuesday night in November for an NBA season right now, it's almost unheard of that we're caring. It's a success.
I think it's forward thinking by Adam Silver. He's catering right now and wanting this to become a big thing with 12, 13, 14-year-olds to the point where when they're 21, 22, 23, it's like Premier League soccer, where this is a massive event. I think it's a smart move. It's forward thinking, and it's going to catch on.
It's certainly going to catch on. It's funny. Those guys are such competitors that no matter what trophies apparently you put in front of them, they'll start playing at the highest levels to try to go ahead and
$500 grand also.
Yeah, well, that too, $500 grand. They're running up scores. They're not, because, typically you take your foot off the gas pedal, but it's a tiebreaker in this tournament. Adam Silver so far is getting everything that he wants out of these players. We all questioned it. $500 grand when you have, tens of millions of dollars doesn't maybe sound like that much, right? From that vantage point, apparently it matters to all of these dudes. But really, I think it's just the bragging rights of ultimate competitors. Is this our NBA music? Are you feeling NBA?
Well, NBA Jam?
Our NBA music as we move on to another NBA topic. Mark Cuban, he is selling the majority stake in the Dallas Mavericks. Most people did not see this coming from the billionaire, but reportedly he is selling off a stake that is now worth billions of dollars, and he paid $400,000 or something for this team. I don't have it in front of me.
Just under $300 million for the Mavericks a long time ago, and he's selling now for $3.5 billion to the Adelson family, who are in charge of the Sands casinos. I mean, she is I think she's like the fourth or fifth richest woman in the world.
Miriam Adelson.
So,
great name.
This is one where, the Phoenix Suns sold for $4 billion. Dallas-Fort Worth is a larger market. Cuban gets to keep his managerial rights in basketball ops. That's why she's getting this at a discount. But make no bones about this. There's zero doubt in my mind that she is going to find a way to finally tell Texas politicians, do not keep taking the money from Louisiana and Oklahoma casino owners that are greasing Texas politicians' pockets. There will be a casino finally in Texas where it should be, and those Texas dollars need to stay. There will be a casino across the interstate next to the Dallas Mavericks practice facility within the next decade. She will find a way to make that happen. There's zero doubt in my mind.
I have zero doubt that every state will eventually find a way to make that happen.
Brilliant move by Cubes. He's leaving Shark Tank. He's essentially retiring at 65, except keeping a operational title with the Dallas Mavericks and still being in charge of basketball calls.
Right. Still getting to live out the dream, right? Still getting to play with the toy, essentially.
Yeah.
Draymond Green says he's not going to change, by the way. We have learned Draymond doesn't feel any remorse for the altercation with Rudy Gobert. He ain't going to change, Ian. Does that shock you?
No, it shouldn't. That's part of what makes him Draymond. The Warriors.
Yeah, well, the Warriors don't look so good, but they're going to ride this thing all the way down. That's what you do when the guys have delivered you multiple championships. Coming up next here on Amber and Ian, Cole Kublik is going to join us. We got a lot of SEC football to talk about with SEC championship upon us, plus championship weekend generally, and the college football playoff rankings.
Greeny.
Zach Wilson's terrible. He's just a terrible player. He doesn't get it. He doesn't see anything. Zach Wilson cannot be on this team next year. That's really all there is to be said about the Jets.
Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
Some days you hit snooze, but not today. Today, you have to go on a run to get burgers for the tailgate. You've got to haul something heavy, a cooler stocked with Bud Light. You've got beer and football, nothing is hard, until the other team scores. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. 21 plus. Copyright 2023 Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college, which ends up making the future better for all of us. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Barstool Big Cat on the Waddle and Sylvie Show on ESPN Chicago. Now Wednesdays at 4. Brought to you by Curcio Law Offices. This is SportsCenter.
I'm Nick DeLuca. Luis Severino signing with the Mets. Two-time All-Star agreeing on a one-year, $13 million deal, according to ESPN's Jeff Passan. Contract includes $2 million in performance bonuses. Severino pitched in 8 seasons with the Yankees. Struggled last year dealing with injury with a 6.65 ERA. Had a 3.39 ERA in the previous 7 seasons. In the NFL, Aaron Rodgers back at practice. Jets QB, a limited participant today, 79 days after suffering a torn Achilles on opening night. Not cleared for contact after the Jets opened his 21-day practice window. ESPN's Freddie Douglas, not sure Rodgers' return makes sense.
I can't risk it. And you mentioned, man, sometimes coaches, ownership, general manager, those guys have to save the player from themselves because, you know, being a former player, Freddie, we were wired different, man. All we know is go, go, go. We want to play. We want to be out there. That's all we know at times.
Meanwhile, Joe Flacco, now the number 2 quarterback in Cleveland. Browns making Flacco the backup to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, possibly putting Flacco in line to start Sunday's game against the Rams. Thompson-Robinson remains in concussion protocol, sat out practice today. In college football, Duke starting quarterback Riley Leonard entered the transfer portal. Leonard threw for nearly 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns this past season, adding 13 on the ground as an All-ACC honorable mention in 2023.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Cannon, coming on Thursday as we head into Week 13. I'll tell you which team's playoffs start now. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Amber and Ian is presented to you by Progressive Insurance. Find him at Ian Fitz ESPN. His daughters runs all of his accounts. He doesn't know what social media is, but they provide excellent content. At Amber W Sports, that's how you find me. My kid's not old enough to run my account yet, but I will be putting him to work when he is. It is championship weekend in college football, so boy, is there a lot to talk about. For help with that, Cole Kubelik, SEC Network, ESPN college football analyst. Read and react on SEC Network is how you watch them. Cole, as always, thanks for your time. Let's start with the college football playoff rankings, because when those rankings came out yesterday, Ian and I argued about these things, and there was a couple components to the rankings that really bothered each of us. But I'll start with the one, it's not SEC, but the one that we argued about the most was Florida State. How do you feel about the top 4 undefeated being there 1 through 4?
I think that's where they should be as of now. I think it's something that is very difficult to manage. Even I go back and forth on it a little bit. A team that has accomplished what they have accomplished, if they win this game this weekend against Louisville and become ACC champions and get another good win, having done that but without one of your star players, which changes the type of team that you are, I understand that it makes you difficult to judge. But I think the other part about it is, you look at that receiving core, you look at that defensive line, you look at those running backs. They got a lot of other really good players outside of Jordan Travis. So it's a tough decision, and I think that's the one. We talk about some of these things come down to how you view teams. It's going to come down to personal preference. That's one with that committee that is going to depend on, do you view a team very different without their star player, or do you view that team as having earned the ability to be where they are. And it's not what the teams have earned to get in. It's, are they the best 4 teams? And without Jordan Travis, I do not believe that Florida State is one of the best 4 teams if things go a certain way, as in what happens with Oregon this weekend, what happens with Texas, Alabama this weekend.
So having said that, to you, is it the best 4 that belong in, or the 4 most deserving? Because right now, I think Alabama would beat Florida State on a neutral site. I think Washington would beat Florida State on a neutral site. I think Michigan, Georgia, they would all, and Texas would beat Florida State on a neutral site. To me, they are deserving, but they are not one of the 4 best. That was our argument last night.
Yeah, I think it should be the 4 best teams. And I think that's one of the benefits of going to 12-team playoff. Go ahead and have the AQs. And go ahead and have that, the ACC champion gets in, the Big 12 champion gets in, because we've heard this year after year after year, that undefeated conference champion or one-loss conference champion, we know good and well that committee changes their opinion when that moniker is placed next to your name. Is that right? Probably not. Should it really change your opinion of the team? No, not really. If what they did in that game helps change your opinion of that team or helps your argument to support that team, that's fine. That's great. But you shouldn't greatly change your opinion of a team just because they've won a conference championship game. If you think another team's better than them, then you shouldn't put them in. And I think we've had some really good teams over the last 4 or 5 years be left out because they didn't have that title next to their name. So for me, Ian, it's always going to be the 4 best teams. We haven't always gotten that, but that's what I would want in.
Yeah, and we served with you on the mock committee years ago, and we didn't talk for weeks because we were arguing over best and which ones were deserving to be in. Can you imagine being on this committee with 8 teams by the committee's numbers, right, still alive for 4 spots in the college football playoff?
No, because I would have probably already been stressed out to the point that no one would have wanted me there. When Ohio State started at number 1, I would have probably been done then. And then with the treatment of Oregon ahead of Texas and Alabama, that wouldn't have been very friendly. We would have had some pretty serious problems there. The inconsistencies drive me crazy. And I can't with the we value the resume and we have to have the resume, and that's why Georgia wasn't number 1, why Ohio State was. It's why other teams are valued. But then Oregon, Alabama, if you're just going to go by numbers, I mean, perception might be a little bit different for some people, and that's fine. But if you're going to go by numbers, Alabama's got the best resume of these 8 teams. I mean, their overall opponent records are 85 and 59. They've only defeated 3 teams that are under 500 on the season. I understand that they have a loss, so that makes them different perceptionally than Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, and that's okay. Those other teams deserve to be ahead of them because they didn't lose. Texas would actually be next if you're just looking at resumes and statistically what the teams have done. Now, I will say Ohio State's resume is better than how I view them as a team. When you look at the fact that their overall opponent records are 82 and 62, the one team that they lost to is undefeated and a top 2 team in the country right now. So it just feels like, it almost feels to me right now like this committee put themselves in a corner with Oregon early on, and they don't want to prove themselves wrong this late in the process. I've always been okay with reevaluating and reassessing and going in every week with a new slate. There's no way this committee has done that. There's no way they have hit the reset button each and every week. They have had a lot of that old AP poll phobia where they had the team there for the first 4 or 5 weeks, and by God, they just got to keep them there, even if they feel like somebody's better. Like we can't move them down just because of who they are, what we thought of them early. It's just there's parts of this that are just so inconsistent, and I just don't understand it.
Cole Kublik, SEC Network, an ESPN college football analyst joining us here on Amber and Ian. Cole, the reason that I hate your argument and Ian's argument, frankly, when we talk about who's the best, is because what's the point? That's twofold, especially when it comes to FSU. And I'm a Gators fan, so I hate the Seminoles. So I hate that I've had to spend any time defending Florida State. But what's the point of playing the game if we're just going to then, if you defeat everybody who's in front of you, and you can only play who's on your schedule. If you go ahead and take care of business against everybody on your schedule and you're still not going to get in, then why are we even bothering? But then also on the back end of that, of course, is having a massive injury be the reason? It feels like punishment when you lose the guys at the end of the season, and that's why you're kept out, even though all season long you've been great.
I hate it, Amber. I would tell you, like I tell my kids every day, life ain't fair, and that's just kind of part of this whole situation. When you go with 4 teams, and you're going to have 5 major conferences who are going to crown a champion that potentially people are going to view as deserving to be in if they win those games in front of them, like you said, somebody's going to be left out. And this could easily work itself out with 4 undefeated conference champions, and they go, and that's going to be it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think Georgia and Alabama get in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I just don't think that happens. But then what is the committee going to do? I was surprised that Ohio State only went to 6. I do think part of that was a little bit of CYA from the committee saying, well, Texas and Alabama get to play this weekend, and we can just say that they earned their way above Ohio State because they didn't play. There's also some of that forward thinking going on. I absolutely believe that that's a real thing. My problem with your Florida State argument would be that they've defeated 5 teams that are below 500. Their overall opponent record is 67-76. Their best win is LSU at 9-3. And then when you get past that, obviously you have an 8-4 Clemson team that you beat on the road. There's not a lot of other really good wins. There's not a lot of braggable wins on the schedule. I think Florida State has a lot of really good football players. I think Florida State's a really good football team. I think Norvell's a hell of a coach. But if you're comparing it to what Georgia has done, or what Michigan has done, or what Alabama has even done, from the perspective of the schedules, I don't really think that the resumes are very close. And I think that's an easy solution. Now, if you want to tell me from an eyeball test perspective that you like Florida State better than Washington, I have no problem with that. Because that's what the committee's telling me with Oregon versus what they see in Ohio State and Texas and Alabama. I mean, hell, I think Missouri's a better football team than Ohio State right now. But that's me watching the games and what I see from the teams when I watch the games. I think Ohio State's a team that doesn't have a ton of balance offensively. I don't think they're great up front on offense. I think they're overly relying on an individual player. And I think their defense is not one that, if they're not attacking you, is one that's going to be super problematic. So that's just the way that I see them. So everybody's going to have their different opinions when they watch these teams play because you value different things and you watch them different ways.
Cole, let's get into the committee's worst nightmare, in my opinion. And that is if Texas beats the Pokes, Florida State beats Louisville, and Alabama finds a way as a 5.5 to 6 point underdog on ESPN bet to beat Georgia. One, give us your analysis knowing these two teams extraordinarily well. Georgia, Alabama, the matchup in the SEC championship. And does Alabama, in your opinion, have I think they have a legit shot. How would they beat Georgia to have the committee put into one of the worst situations we've ever seen for college football playoff scenario?
You're asking me how does Alabama get that win?
Yep.
Well, if you watch these two defenses over the last couple weeks, and they're obviously very similar in structure. They're not far off in ability. I think Georgia's a little bit better on the back end. I think Alabama's better on the edges. I think linebacker probably leans Georgia, even with James Johnson out. But they're pretty close across the board. What they have struggled with is misdirection, eye violations, eye candy, read plays, option plays. So zone reads, quarterback's ability to keep, throw, and being able to hand the ball off, and then teams changing up those reads as well. Georgia